Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Ron.
Yes, ma'am. So by 2:55, I'll start, ma'am.
Okay, no problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we are very happy that you have all joined. Bill Gates, one of the iconic figures of the world, says reading is still the main way that I both learn new things and test my understandings. A good leader's quality lies not only in leading the society or an individual, but also in self upgradation and assessment. And reading is one of the tools to achieve that. Though not all readers turn out to be great leaders, all leaders have been readers, some the voracious readers of life's lessons. This explains well the need to learn through reading, in order to lead the herd towards a purpose. To enlighten us with most desirable and most required quality, we have today a versatile personality, Dr. Deepa Carlin, Associate Professor, Karpagam Academy of Higher Education, Coimbatore, to deliver a speech on the topic Read to Lead. Ma'am's skills in communicating and leading adult learners towards their goals and betterment. Her excellent English communication skills sculpts her the most apt resource person for today's event. Her doctoral thesis on English language teaching, laying importance in listening and vocabulary development, is of great importance in training young minds. She has published several research papers and guiding six PhD scholars currently. Apart from 13 years of rich teaching experience, Dr. Deepa Carlin has been the examiner of OET, oral examiner, and trainer of Beck as well. It's a privilege to have you as a resource person in our INLIT Academy webinar series, ma'am. We are looking forward to learn wonderful lessons of leading through reading from your session, ma'am. Ma'am, you can start.
Thank you, Ron. That was a wonderful introduction given by Ronald. And as I was introduced, I'm Dr. Deepa Carlin. I currently work with the Karpagam Institutions as an associate professor in English. With this brief intro about myself, I'll just start sharing my screen. So I hope it is visible to you.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible, ma'am.
Okay. So as you've heard, the topic for today's session is read to lead. Okay. How can read help you to lead, or how can reading alone makes a person a good leader is what we are going to see in today's session. So your active participation is important throughout the session. And throughout the presentation, Ronald will be managing with the comment section, and you can enter your questions, answers, and comments in the comment box throughout the presentation. So, as I've already told, I said we need to read books on real paper more than ever before. Nowadays, when we see reading has deteriorated among people with the advent of all these smartphones and everything, it has been very, very less, and very less importance has been given to reading also. So we are spending over 5 hours a day on our cell phones right now, whether we believe it or not. It is that is the census what it has been revealing. And some research shows that we touch our cell phones over 2,500 times a day. We are totally addicted, and it is messing with our minds too. As one small example, like one professor in San Diego University, he tells that those cell phones, the smartphones, it increases our anxiety by 30%. Anxiety is something which leads to many other emotional disorders or behavioral disorders among young people nowadays. So, in a world of endless dings and pings, I personally, or I very strongly feel we need a massive or distinct task that focuses or helps our mind to focus and challenges our assumptions. As we are too much into the social media, we have our own assumptions, what we see regularly. And we also need a kind of a task which shapes our values and fuels our passions throughout. So, in one of the journals published in the annual review of psychology, it actually tells that books is a kind of a medicine. So, like how people nowadays find laughter as a therapy, and various other medicines, even reading books is a kind of medicine because they create empathy and intimacy and happiness, which the rest of the gadgets cannot give us. Why? Because our brains have a mirror neurons, which sparks when we read about experiences we have not lived. So the experience is what we read in the book, which we have not lived. It actually sparks or it actually fires the mirror neurons. Uh, for example, we read on the character of another gender in another country and another period of time. Our minds think, or it actually rehearses that we are there. We live inside the mind and through the life of the person we are reading about. It can be a fictional book or even through kind of a biography or an autobiography. So, a science magazine actually which was published in 2013, it actually shows that reading literary fiction improved the test results, the test which actually tested the empathy and perception. It improves the measure of social perception and empathy among the people. So reading even literary fiction has a lot of impact on the way they perceive the society and the way they empathize with the other person. So you can become a better parent, boss, student, and at large a better human being if you actually inhibit reading into your lives. So with a small introduction, we'll have a very brief quiz. I'm going to just put a few pictures and you'll have to find out the leaders' names which is hiding it. It need not be a leader, actually a political leader. It can even be a successful person. So each slide I'm going to put it in screen it for 10 seconds and you will put the answers which you think is right in the comments box. So Mr. Ronald will help us in reading out the comments. So the first slide is gone. You've got three pictures there. You can go in an order from the top to bottom. So I think you're all finding it easier. Shall I move on to the next one? The second slide, I think this name is quite easy and it's quite familiar with the youngsters as of now. And very often he comes in the television for various other things. Very recently, he started talking even about the climatic changes and the sixth extinction, which is going on now.
Ma'am, 1 second, ma'am. They're answering, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, one person has said Bill Gates.
Okay, that is
Naveen.
okay. Very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
The first one, no one found the
First
answer.
one. First one, no one found the answer, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. People who are currently watching on what's happening on Mars will know this person. Okay, this is the last one.
Yes, ma'am. Just a second, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Am I allowed to guess, ma'am?
Uh, okay, try. You know
Elon.
for sure. Elon Musk. Yes.
Elon Musk, ma'am. Amalan GTA person. He has said Lincoln, ma'am. But,
Okay. Mhm.
yes, ma'am. Elon Musk, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, fine. So we'll move on to why these people were introduced to you now. So, as the first slide, no one guessed it. It is Warren Buffett. You had a scene of a war, and a person was running. So, Warren Buffett is the buffet, the kind of a meal which was given there. So that was quite tricky. So it was Warren Buffett. So whatever those three personalities I've actually given, it is because they have a very good reading habit. Even when we started this session, Ronald was giving an introduction about what Bill Gates said. So Bill Gates actually reads 50 books a year and he tells that that is one of the most chief that is the cheapest way by which he learns. And he also learns by visiting interesting places, meeting with the scientists, and a lot of lectures online. But finally, he also he attributes his knowledge to reading, okay, by which he learns. And Warren Buffett, if you just see how many pages he reads every day, 600 to 1000, he should be an inspiring person who, for all those who tell I don't have time, because Warren Buffett, you know who he is, and he's reading uh, around 600 to 1000 pages per day. That is a very big thing. And Mark Cuban, I didn't give it in the slides, but then you know who he is. He's owner of a basketball team, and he reads 3 hours a day. And Elon Musk, he tells that he has learned rocketing only from the books. Okay, so when we see all these speakers, effective people who have been talked about a lot, they have a very good reading habit. Okay, so what actually makes them to lean towards the reading habit is, we'll see the benefits of the reading. So, what are the benefits of reading? What can reading do to me? That is the question that has to be known, or many people don't know what is going to happen. Anyway, I'm seeing a lot of online videos. I'm seeing. I'm actually into the world, social media. I come to know about many things, and all these. We give a lot of excuses, but then what happens when we read is what we're going to see now. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits for reading, like you can actually gain a lot of knowledge, you can gain vocabulary and all, but we just see the seven important benefits which happens when we read. Okay, the first thing is it reduces the stress, and especially during this kind of period, which is kind of, which is actually happening now. The pandemic is there; it's existing. A lot of lockdowns. A lot of people have lost their jobs. They are into too much of stress. They don't have enough money. They have lost their jobs. They don't know what to do. Their trade has even lost. It's come to a standstill and everything. But then that is where when we have to resort to reading, because the research shows that reading for just 6 minutes a day can reduce stress by as much as 68%. In fact, relaxing by reading reduces stress better and faster than other common stress busting methods, like what we used to listen to songs, going for a walk, having a cup of tea. Apart from all these things, if you read just for 6 minutes a day, that will reduce your stress. And a neuropsychologist, a cognitive neuropsychologist, I don't know if you know this person by name Dr. David Lewis, he conducted a research and said losing yourself in a book is the ultimate relaxation anyone can get. So, reading a book reduces your stress, and that is the need of the hour at present. And be it students, kids, grown ups, or even elders or old people, whomever it is, to reduce stress, reading is the best thing they can resort to. And the second important thing, second benefit, what we're going to look into is gaining knowledge. Remember what Elon Musk said? He learned rocketing in reading books. Okay, when you read, you are refilling your head with all sorts of knowledge, and knowledge has a way of coming in handy when you least expect it. So, whenever you read, you need not put those things which you read exactly at that point of time. You might think, why should I read about rocketing now? He could have even thought, okay, but then even when even before it became a kind of a trend, or people realize the importance, they tend to read more about those things. But it came to now it came handy when it is required. Sometimes during their job interviews, or meeting your friends, or sometimes even on a lighter mode in parties where you can boast about so many things. So whenever you least expect it, it all resides in your subconscious mind, that you need not even you won't even think that it would come to you by that time. But when you read, everything gets deposited in your subconscious mind, and that actually increases your knowledge. However, having lots of knowledge doesn't make you a brilliant conversationalist and help your job prospects. The amount and the type of knowledge that you have largely determines your ability to make your way in the world. Okay, so it's like it's just because of knowledge, you may not actually choose everything that comes your way, but then you can be very particular and focused in choosing what subject you want to improve your knowledge on. And the more you read, the more things you will know, the more that you learn, the more place you will go. So this is what we actually expect in reading. So we have to read to gain knowledge. And thirdly, it expands your vocabulary. What is actually needed to speak fluently or fluently in English or in your mother tongue, whatever it is? Only reading expands your vocabulary. Reading skills is actually one of the input skills. So when you have a good rich input, only you will have a better output. So reading actually increases your vocabulary. There is no better way to gain a fuller or richer vocabulary than by reading. Do you know what no kind of if we have read Ulysses by James Joyce, according to one of the blogger, we would know that reading expands their vocabulary, and the kind of words they use improves when you read a lot of literary fiction, because those kind of explanation or deeply explaining each and every aspect of a kind of a scenery is there, and you can definitely gain more vocabulary when you read. And when you have more vocabulary, two things improves. One, it improves your writing skills, and it also improves your speaking skills. So improving your writing skills, whether you are an aspiring novelist or you want to start a blog or you have to write reports for your job even, you will want to become a better writer. So when you want to become a better writer, definitely you have to read, because only through reading you can expand your vocabulary also. And the next set of three benefits actually depends or are based on your psychological improvement. So when you read a lot of books, what happens is many people discover themselves. They actually they don't know when people are in a kind of a mindset um, where they don't know on what field they can go in. They don't know whether this is suitable or that is what can be done. They are in kind of a crossroads. Their reading is helping them to discover themselves. And they also, when they actually find themselves one with the character in the novel or in an autobiography, they also feel understood. Okay, so when you read great books, it helps you to understand, and they help you feel understood also. So one way in which reading can help you to feel understood is through memoirs. A memoir written by someone who's similar to you or who has gone through a situation that resembles what you are currently dealing with can help you to think. Okay, so what kind of when people are in such a kind of situation where they see someone else also has undergone this, they tend to feel that they are not alone. Okay, so it is just not me. I'm not alone in this kind of a plight. Okay, so and they also get another mindset. Okay, this person who has undergone similar situations like mine has has actually gone through that. He has gotten through this, and so I will also be able to come overcome all these kind of situations. This kind of confidence or positivity can happen when you read. So you actually feel understood. So you when people there are a lot of people, when you discuss your problems, they might come up telling that, okay, this is so simple, or you consider this to be a big problem. It's all so simple. Who has not had this, or who has not gone through this? Everyone goes through the same. They might make your problem look very mean, but then for you, your problem is too much. Okay, so when you find a person undergoing a similar kind of a situation, and the way he handles it, and how he is prospectus, and how he is successful towards the end, then you will have a kind of positivity which comes along, when you read. So this can have a very profound the feeling of not being alone, or the feeling of I can also overcome, can have a profound effect on your psyche as well. And the next thing, it learns to focus your action. This is the need of the hour, I would say, because we tend to have, see, one smartphone. It acts as your social media app. It acts, you browse things in that, you send mails in that, you listen to music in that, you watch movies in that. So it actually becomes like too much disturbing, where even if you start doing something or the other productive, you might lose your focus. So the present day technology based articles are making us more dumber, and most of us spend a large part of a day searching and surfing the internet. This, what it does to our brain is it keeps our brains in a constant motion, which scatters our thinking. You might be reading something which is very important. That time another text might come from your friend, or something else, some other notification from another application might come. So it actually scatters your thinking. So reading, when you read real books or when you start listening, then reading on the other hand, it helps you to focus your attention. At the same time, that focused attention is necessary for a rich thought in you. Okay, there was one book, The Shallows: What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. This is written by technology writer Nikhil Carr. He states that he can feel his thinking getting more shallow because of the internet. We tend to know many things, but it is very shallow and superficial. He says, because of the internet only, the thinking is getting more shallower every time. So, over the last few years, we have had an uncomfortable sense that someone or something has been tinkering with our brain, remapping the neural circuitry, reprogramming the memory. Once he tells, actually, the Nicholas Carr tells, once I was a scuba diver in a sea of words, now I zip along the surface like a guy on a jet ski. So many times we ourselves might feel, okay, that we have lost, we read, there are a lot of professionals also here, so we would have read a lot of things when we were in our schools or college and all, but later when we get into the career as such, we lost the habit of reading. So we might be thinking, no, for a long time for a particular word which we were using so frequently before. So this tends, our the internet, which is doing what this thing which the internet does to our brains is making our thoughts go very shallow. Our understanding about issues are becoming very shallow. A lot of things which are misleading. It makes our thoughts and knowledge even very shallow. So if you really care about your own ability to think deeply, it's not thinking superficially. If you care about or bother about your own ability to think deeply, the only one thing what you can do is read. So the last one is becoming more socially adept. The journal Science published an extraordinary study from study a couple of years back, which showed that reading literary fiction can improve people's ability to understand others' mental states. So, in the present scenario, what we do is we actually fail to understand others. Whenever it can be, we are not giving the others the time or taking the time to understand why this has happened, why this person has told this, and what could be his mentality, with what attitude is he giving this kind of a statement. We don't try to understand because we cannot. So, this, when we read literary fiction, it can improve people's ability to understand others' mental states, he says. So, in turn, being able to detect and understand other people's emotion is a very crucial skill in navigating complex social relationships, which is actually deteriorating nowadays. So why a person, how can literary reading help these kind of social skills? Actually, is the researchers say the reason is the literary fiction often leaves more to the imagination, encouraging the readers to make inferences about the characters, and with the characters which you come across when you read, you make inferences. Okay, this character is doing this because he was into this kind of a situation, or he has heard this and he has come from this place and all. And be sensitive, and moreover we are also becoming sensitive to emotional nuances and complexity. So emotional intelligence is what is currently required when we see a lot of people sinking into depression, taking their own lives, having suicidal thoughts, all this emotional and the complexity in the emotional intelligence we can actually become can be improved when we read a lot of books. So if you want to sharpen your ability to understand others' emotions, you actually have to definitely resort only to reading. So some for many of us, all these benefits might seem to be more and more familiar. Okay, I know all these things are there. Yes, I also, no one would ever feel that reading is bad and all. Everyone wants to read. Everyone, many of us, like when the lockdown started, a lot of people started a new habit. So everyone wants to start healthy habits or productive habits to actually improve themselves to one. But then as an adult, it is very hard to find time to read. So many a times we people keep on giving the same excuse, okay, I don't have time. However, I hope after reading all these benefits or after listening to all these benefits, which I'd already said, you would have been persuaded to move to reading, now move reading to your list of high priorities and live your best life by reading more. But when when you have decided, determined to adopt a new habit, there are a lot of other things that are coming up too. Like a lot of other why people are very finding it very difficult to adapt and adopt a habit as such, a new habit which they want to. So before doing that, what is the reason everyone is finding it difficult to adapt a new habit is there are two major reasons. No, one being you don't understand how habits are structured and how to leverage that structure to your advantage. This thing is actually we don't know how habits are structured, what actually has to develop a habit, and how can you increase the advantages of that particular habit in your life. And secondly, the moment we start, we are attempting to do too much too soon and setting yourself up for a failure. We actually think too much of we set our goals very high and finally end up in failures. These two mistakes everyone does, and how to overcome this. Okay, so when we talk about understanding the habit structure, we need to be familiar with these three words. That is a trigger, action, and a reward. So this the three words individually you might have heard and you would be familiar with what a trigger is, what action is, and what a reward is. But you might not know how it is being associated with the habit structure. So what for any habit, this is we actually call this as a habit loop. This is a part of a habit loop where the first part trigger, where you are triggered to take some sort of an action um, in your internal or an external environment. For example, you want to improve on your workout schedule. You feel that you're so sedentary, you want to improve that particular habit. So you want to what is the reason why you want to do it? Because we're all at home, we tend to eat a lot, and we also tend to lead a sedentary life because we cannot go out. All these things are there. So probably after a month or two we find ourselves even more no, we would have gained our weight or something like that. So that point, okay, my dresses are becoming tight and all those things, that is a trigger to start a workout habit, workout schedule. But then when it comes to reading, okay, I want to improve on my knowledge, I want to gain more knowledge, I want to improve on my speaking skills, I want to improve on my vocabulary, so I want to understand people better, I want to reduce my stress. Those are the triggers for your reading. And once you're triggered, that trigger actually starts that habit in you. And you have to, the next loop is going into the action. Good or bad, this is the part of a habit loop where you actually take action on the habit you want to adopt or you want to drop. Okay, some habits like eating late in the night you want to drop. or some habits like reading in the morning you want to adopt. So that what you want to, you have to get into the action, and by after the trigger is there, you have to get into the action. And the last part is the reward. This part of the habit loop is where your brain receives a reward for taking the desired activity. So when you get a reward after that, the immediate rewards, how the more immediate the rewards are, the more sustained you will be in the habit. So it is a loop. So your reward is actually the next trigger, and the next trigger leads to the action, and the next action must give a reward. So this is how the loop goes on. Okay, so what happens is, when we read a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, an expert on behavioral psychology, he suggests that most people fail to adopt new habits because they do not understand this, and they do not have the rewards immediate also. So just think about the most addictive and destructive habits we have seen. Like, for example, smoking a cigarette, or snorting a cocaine, or drinking yourself to and all these kind of things, though are all easy habits to adopt because they light up your brain with dopamine, a chemical called dopamine, and these substances naturally reward your brain and encourage continued usage, even though they are detrimental to your overall health and well-being. Okay, so but then when it comes to reading, positive or kind of positive habits, such as reading or meditation or some kind of healthy eating or exercise, we don't have immediate obvious rewards. That is one reason why we don't stick to that habit. So what can be the rewards, or how what kind of rewards you can give to yourself? That is actually very important, because you are the best ones to choose a reward for yourself. For example, studies have shown that consuming a small amount of dark chocolate, it actually gives similar chemical reactions like what the dopamine does to your brain. So probably you can have a piece of dark chocolate after you read, or you can promise yourself, okay, after I read this book, you can promise yourself a movie or some kind of other things I will do, whichever suits, which rewards suits you. So finding a motivating reward can be is actually um, very important for any habit, and you can be creative enough in choosing your own rewards. Okay, and you can also promise yourself a 15 minutes of gaming after an intense say 1 hour of reading or 2 hours of reading. After this, I will reward myself with a gaming session, something like that. You can just choose. Okay. So if you're very struggling to make a new habit stick, then you probably in after doing all these also, if you're not no, you cannot make that habit stick with you, then you probably aren't aware or consciously applying the habit loop. You're not understanding this reward section. Okay. Okay, so if you have the other one is, we'll move on to the next. So before you move further, so the you have until now you have known the benefits of reading, why you should read, and how great people have resorted to reading and everything. And you also know how to why you've not been able to adapt that particular skill or that hobby into your lives and all. And then you have the structure of making a habit and everything. So before moving next, we have to see three questions which you need to answer. Those three questions are: the first one, what are some cues that I can set up in my environment to remind me to take action? Okay, then this is the triggers. Okay, so you can, what are the things that will remind you of this habit, like reading? And second one, what are some ways I can limit the barrier to action for my desired habit? So something might be as a barrier for your reading habit. What are they? You have to list it down. And the third question is, how can I reward myself in a positive way to continue pursuing these habits? These three questions, if you answer, these are personalized questions. It cannot be, not everyone can have the same answers. Okay, not everyone can have the same answers to all these questions. So these three questions are very, very important when you start a habit as such. So you've known how to do it, so have this list. What can what clues or what things I can set up in my environment? Like if you're reading, probably you can set up a reading corner, a cozy reading corner where you can sit and read, or some kind of posters, or some kind of new habits. And we can also set up a habit tracker. Even that can be done in mobile, or even in your reading book. You can have a get a book, and you can just mark a very small calendar with just the numbers days. So each day when you are reading, you can just cross it. That is a habit tracker you can do. When you see a lot of crosses in that particular month, then you know, okay, I've done so much. So that itself is a reward. When you have a continuous access throughout that particular calendar, then you can definitely, that will motivate you not to leave reading on that particular day alone. So you can set up your kind of habit trackers, or you can set up a reading corner in your room, or you can set up a library where you are free from the external disturbances, something like that. And the next, what are the ways I can limit the barrier to action for my desired habit? So when we read, what are the disturbances? Sometimes when we read in the evening or in the night, repeated calls or work calls or official calls, or people calling you, or your friends discussing things with you, those calls and social media is disturbing, might be disturbing. So you can actually think, shift this particular habit to the early mornings when no one will disturb you. So that sort of, you just list out the barriers. What is preventing me? Is it that I don't have books, or is it like I don't have time, or is it like people are disturbing me? I'm getting everything, all the messages, or other responsibilities during that part of a day. Whatever your barriers are, you just list it out, and then you can analyze and find how it can be prevented. And this third question we have already discussed. How can I reward myself in a positive way to continue pursuing these habits? So sometimes when you start reading books, you might you might actually have the urge to discuss things. So you can actually, what you can do is, you and your friend can pair up and start reading the same book, and then you can discuss those, or as a group, or as a class, or with your peers, with your colleagues. You can start reading and you can start discussing things. So this is some kind of positive reward you can give yourself. Or simple things like eating a chocolate, gaming, or going for a walk, or a movie after that. That can also be reward, whichever interests you. So these three questions, if you have answered, then you are set ready to adopt this particular habit. So once you have decided, you know the structure, you know you are very determined that you have to start, what to read. That is the next important question. So what to read? We have fictions, we have educational biographies, autobiographies, publications, journals, everything, a lot of other things we have. When we read fiction, as I said before, we have a better understanding of people. We can have more life. That is, we live in those characters. When the character is doing things, we live, and we get a satisfaction that we have lived more. We not live just one life as you as an individual. You have lived the life of the characters which you have been reading. So you tend to have more life, and you learn about different cultures also. So even that part is better. And when you come to educational biographies and autobiographies, they can actually help in guiding you, inspiring you, and it can also be informational. So If you personally ask me, what I would suggest is it is better resort to biographies, autobiographies, because there we can actually find a lot of inspiration and guidance. So we tend to, always stick with the lead character of anything, any work we read. So by the time when we finish reading the book, we tend to feel even more successful than the actual person, because we have lived through that person. So a lot of other biographies, autobiographies, you can start reading, and you will get better information from those kind of books. So I've just got a list of books which you can start reading, or you can just recommend to your friends also. As a peer group, you can start reading the Shoe Dog. So just by the tick in the shoe itself, you would have known this is inspiring memoir by Nike's founder. Okay, Nike shoes founder, and board chairman Phil Knight. He shares his journey of early struggles and the later days. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, this is a must read for you. Even if you're not being an entrepreneur, also you can actually try reading this. This is very, very good. And another one is Take Me Home. I think I've not given this here. Outliers, that has been there. Even Take Me Home is also, no, and it's that here in the last one. Take Me Home by Rashmi Bansal. That is one of the best startup novels that is in the recent times. It talks about 20 people from a small town in India who thought to make it big and did it successfully. These are stories of people leaving homes, their towns, and in few cases even countries. If you think things are impossible, if you feel okay, nothing is going to happen, that sort of a mindset, if you are in, this is one of the best books you can resort to. And Outliers, in the second row you have Outliers. The most successful Malcolm Gladwell talks about success and how to achieve it in this book, and tells us not to look at the success of our idols but rather focus on how they achieved it and the situations around them. We mostly youngsters, what they do is they celebrate the idols, but they don't look into the situations they were in and how they did it. So this one book is for them. And there remain the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I think Ronald has already given this particular talked about this particular book in his own channel. And I Steve, which is about Steve Jobs, and the underrated CEOs. That is also other novel which you can definitely resort to. And Portfolio Book of Great Indian Success Stories, that also you can resort to reading. So in case if you are thinking of taking reading as a habit, it's not in case, I would say you have to take resort to reading as a habit. You have to adopt reading as a habit in your life, because once you start reading, you will never leave it, and you will make your time. It is very, very productive that you spend all this time which you spend in reading is very productive, and you can definitely work, that will work wonders in your life. So with this, when we think of reading, we also think, okay, I have to buy books. Where do I go? Nowadays, we don't find much of libraries and all, and we all have our cell phones. Okay, so we can resort for this e-books and audiobooks, and these are some of the applications which you can readily download. And if you want, you can even subscribe it and have. But all these applications do have free ebooks. You can also resort to that, or else those books which are bestsellers or premium books and all, you can subscribe it and read it. Either you can read it or you can listen to it. Those times when you're waiting elsewhere, or when you're traveling, or you cannot read a book, you cannot carry a book in your hand, these applications do have a lot of benefits on that. This Google, those who have iPhones, you've got this books, Audible, Kobo, Storytel. Storytel is one app which has even regional languages like Tamil, Hindi. Those stories are also in audiobooks, and Tamil classics like Ponniyin Selvan is also there. So you can definitely, all those reading is not only in English, it can even be in your regional language. Those things also you can just find and download it. All are available. When you download it, all these apps are free. If you want to read those books which are not free, you have to subscribe it. So I don't think spending say 100 or 200 rupees per month is going to be a big deal, because it actually gives us a lot of knowledge, and we thoroughly enjoy reading those things or listening to those things. So Libby is also very good, and the rest of Google Play Reading is also good. So you can just resort to all these applications also when you are finding it very difficult to actually get books and read. We can also listen to audiobooks, and when listening to audiobooks, we also tend to listen to the spelling, the way it is pronounced, the way we read. Because if you have seen in the kindergarten class or in the primary classes, we were made to read things in class. You know, we read the lessons in class aloud, but now we don't read. So these when we listen people reading stories to us, we also tend to become better readers, better oral readers. We we know where to use our intonations well. We also know how to pronounce each word. We know how each sentence is being read, which what emotion it actually delivers. All that is also very evident when you resort to audiobooks. So I hope this was quite informational. And if you have any questions, you can definitely pitch in now. The participants, if you are pitching in your questions, or if you have any other, because this, as I told you in the beginning itself, this is some kind of an interactive session where I cannot be, no, totally, it cannot be a lecture. So you would have started this habit sometime, and sometimes due to some kind of reasons, you'd have left those habits. If you have those kind of experiences also, you can just put your questions, and I'll be happy to answer your questions if at all it is regarding reading. Ron?
Yes, ma'am. We are waiting for questions, ma'am.
Okay. Even if you have questions, you can start, or you can, if you have anything more to add, Ron, you can definitely do it. Because you've read, I think you've given this talking about the seven habits effective, that book you've done on your channel, right?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there's a question from Amalan, ma'am. He
Mm-hmm.
wants to know, I would like to know how to take time to read among work schedule and time management about that, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this even I had Amlin, because you know the schedules how we used to go and all the schedules as a no, kind of associate professor and handling classes and everything. What I did was I took time early in the morning. That is how I said. So taking time in the evening was the thing which I did initially, but then now I started reading in the morning. So I get up probably early in the morning before everyone wakes up. Then that is the time which is actually more productive than ever. So we would have had a very good sleep. Getting up early in the morning, getting into the 5 a.m. club also is very useful. So I did it only in the morning, where no one disturbs. Usually, even until 9 or 10, people keep disturbing through their phones or something like that. So that is there. And as I've already told, I've downloaded few apps, the Storytel app, the books, and the Oodle. Those things I've downloaded, and I started listening when I drive. So I drive by car, so I listen to those audiobooks in car when I drive also. And this lockdown period, morning only I do it, because throughout the day something or the other pops out, and you can never resort to a silent pace where you no one can disturb, and also only in the morning. I hope this would help you, Amlan, or answered your question.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Ma'am,
what do
there's
you
another.
do, Ron? What do you don't do? You have a regular reading habit. I've already seen,
Uh,
always seen you with a book. Wherever.
yes, ma'am. I have. It's. I mean,
Do you
from
have a
small
routine?
age.
Do you
Yes,
have a
ma'am.
routine?
1 hour
Okay.
I set aside, no matter what. So I just read. Ma'am.
Hmm.
It's during, as you say, you do it in the morning, ma'am. I
Hmm.
take it like 9 to 10 before I go to
Hmm.
sleep.
Hmm.
Ma'am, there's another question. How to build strong habits of reading? Like, make it strong, stick to it. What is that? You have any suggestions, ma'am?
You start with easy things. Don't set your goals too high. I'm going to finish this one book a day. That shouldn't be. And don't compare yourself. Like I've given all these things. Like people read 600 pages a day. People read 50 books a year. You don't take. You just get inspired that they are reading, but then don't be carried away by the numbers. You start with easy books which you can very easily understand. Go with those books which have very simple language, and that is why I suggest autobiographical books. So you can go with books with simple language which you understand, and then go with things which you like. In case you like novels, fiction, start with fictions, and then go to inspiring autobiographies and all those books. So whichever, even children novels or children stories, short stories, that also can give you that actually can help you build a habit as such. So on first few months, like a couple of months, you don't go in for big books. Go in for smaller books which you finish it quickly, and those books which has very simple language, so that you don't have the feel this is not my cup of tea. That sort of feel you shouldn't get when you start the first book before you read. I think
Okay, ma'am.
that would have answered the
Okay, ma'am.
participant.
Actually, we had a similar question, like what kind of books to start reading so that we can build a habit. But I think you already answered that, ma'am.
Hmm. You can start
Uh,
with short stories. Just
Yes.
1 hour reading, 45 minutes reading. If you go with audio books, just check for the timings. Sometimes it might be just 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours. You just start with 1 hour books. They're 1 hour stories. Then you just stop for the day. The next day you should be inspired to go in for a 2 hour reading. So don't stress yourself or overburden yourself, or don't feel guilty in case you skip one day's reading. That is all in the game, so you need not feel guilty. Okay, this is not going to come for me, this is not what I'm made for. Don't think just because 1 or 2 days you left because you had some other work, it is there. But then don't feel guilty, but then get inspired and reward yourself better for continuing this habit.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes,
There's
Ron.
another question by Pandeshwari, ma'am. She's asking, reading habit gives pleasure, but audiobooks are not like that. So, which one is better? She's asking about audiobooks versus reading physical books.
Reading physical books is always better, I would say, because you know the feel of holding a book in your hand, and the feeling of the pages, and seeing your own the words which you read, that is actually better. Audiobooks is only when you travel or when you cannot take a book in your hand. This is only a secondary thing. You cannot always resort to or start with when you cannot get a book, or it's taking time, or you want to read a book which you're not getting here, you're not able to buy here. Those kind of books alone, you go in for audio books. But then even audiobooks, when it is read the fictional thing, when it is being read itself, it is like a kind of a play that is happening. Even if it is being read, it will be read in the right kind of emotions. When the dialogues are spoken, that would be of different thing, and that will also be very nice. Like in the olden days, we used to listen even to the movies in the radios, in the radio, in the kind of where even in the radio, I remember listening to movies with only the dialogues and the music. It will be like something like that when you listen to audiobooks. So audiobooks is better when you really have made up this as a habit, and then but then to start with, you have to go only with the printed copies. That would be better in case. audiobooks seems to be boring, there is no other way. You'll have to go with the real hard books, hardbound books.
Yes, ma'am. We have another question, ma'am. What is that one book you'll never get bored reading again and again? Do you have any such books, ma'am?
Yeah, I do have. As I told, this is. I started reading to a lot of reading as well as listening to a lot of audio books recent times because I've started traveling and all. This Robin Sharma's book, A Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and The Secret Letters. Those are those books I've even listened to 3 or 4 times. It takes actually 6 or 7 hours, but I've
Yes,
listened and don't get bored. And those philosophies of life, what is spoken or what is being discussed, completely tend to understand or feel one with that. So that is one inspiring book which I've read recently. And any book, I would not mind reading it again. That is there. You start falling in love for books when you start reading and making this as a habit. So any books just once read, I if you ask me, I will not lend it.
yes, yes, ma'am.
That is also there. Probably
Ma'am,
I can lend my username and password for those apps also, but not the books which I have.
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I'll just combine two questions together and tell you, ma'am. So,
Yes.
what types of books did you start with? And Rini Marshall, ma'am, is asking, do you think reading books changes our personality? These two questions.
Um, I started reading right from my schoolings, but then it was all light novels, even Sidney Sheldon, Jeffrey Archer, those kind of books only I started. And in between, after I joined work and got married and stuff and all, I didn't have time. That was the excuse what I gave. But then now I've made it. But that is a very lame excuse, I would say. But then what happens is I had a mindset I shouldn't be disturbed when I'm with a book, but that is very hard when you are living in a family where you are surrounded by people, when you're working and all. That is definitely not possible. So in between, I lost touch, and now I started again only with a very short story, which was in Storytel. It was. A Little Duck Girl. It was read by Prakash Raj. That was a trigger I had initially. How Prakash Raj would have, it was the actor who had read that story. So I was so very, that was a trigger which started my reading habit again. And then I started listening to one regional novel, Ponniyin Selvan, which I've already read. But then after that, it was all motivational stories or books.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, last question and we'll end the session, ma'am. Is there
Yeah.
any book, any movies to develop communication skills like that?
Book to develop communication skills.
Yes, ma'am. By reading fiction or something, can you do that? That sort of thing.
Any book will develop your communication skills. Communication is actually the best thing is to develop vocabulary. Any book you read will definitely teach you vocabulary, will definitely teach you sentence formation, will also teach you what kind of sentences, what kind of words to use in which situations. So to develop communication skills alone, that skill cannot be separated from reading. I can definitely tell that any book you start reading, it will definitely improve your language. And
Yes,
when you
ma'am.
have that the kind of feel that I know these many words, I've now I'm able to understand things better. I've improved in my reading and I've improved in my pronunciation. That feel itself will make you more exposed to all these kind of communication skills, and that will come to you when you require that. I would say there's no one particular book. Only this you read this. This is the Bible of communication skills. No, no, that is not
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
Any book can definitely develop your communication skills.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we're getting more questions, but I'll select some few and tell you, ma'am. Uh,
Yes.
what are the best mode of generating reading practice in youngsters? Sure.
Youngsters, it's only pure reading. We'll have to resort back to bringing reading into classrooms. Very recently, I saw my kids. They're taking up their online classes, and I've seen those teachers, their English teachers or science teachers or even the maths teacher. They would make the student. They will call the student by name and make them to read the problems or read a paragraph and read the lesson, read the answer. So that actually will have a very big no, kind of effect on the students. So bringing reading into classroom is one big thing which I can definitely tell them, because youngsters even reading short stories, enacting short stories, or even reading novels page by page, that would definitely help the youngsters to get into reading. And we can also recommend the books which has come into movies also for this, so they will have even more curiosity how it is being expressed in words. So those kind of habits or activities can definitely bring in reading into the students also.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, one last question. Reading books seems good, but we are focusing for research article and stuff. We feel it's vague, so that's the thing. Why is that?
Um, it is again the mindset. When you focus on research as a passion, definitely it will not be boring. If you actually have, we tend to, when it comes to research, it is totally another section. We people do research for various reasons. Very few people do it for passion. So when it is done for passion, those research articles, unless we realize the need of it, it will definitely be boring. You read a research article on how the students have been treated. If you really want to know how the students have been treated, what are the kind of challenges they face and why it is so, you want to know that, then you will go in search of those research articles. Otherwise we will not know. So only when it is need based, research articles will be interesting, or else it will be boring, or it has to be because of a passion. You have to have a passion towards research. Nowadays, that is, I cannot blindly tell nowadays, but there are times when the researchers don't have the required passion in the field what they are doing. So in that case, then definitely it will be a little boring only.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for your
Answer.
time.
Thank
Yes,
you. Thank
ma'am.
you, Ron.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving a wonderful talk, ma'am. We learned a lot about reading and how readers will become leaders. Thank you so much, ma'am. And so now we have posted the feedback forms. Please do fill them up and send it. Only for 30 minutes, the feedback forms will be open. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.